Mr. Chapman.
Take a stab at a motion that isn't all jacked up, so anyway.
You gonna stab at it?
Yeah, I will. So I would like to move that we enter into a contract with, Senator Hunt
Hunt
and Mead, up to the $30,000 that we have budgeted in the budget, utilizing those funds, and that not utilizing building funds or other funds, and bring it back to, have the staff bring back to us any amendments to that contract with identifiable funding sources that would allow for it to be more than the 30,000. So let's get started with the 30,000 we have right now. That takes you down through about 6 on that list of items that they have.
So Jim, what you want Richard to do is identify where the 18,000 is going to come from, and then later
we've got 30,000 in there, and if we need another 18,000, or if it turns out we need another 25,000, or only need another 5,000, that he can bring back, and if it involves, if somebody wants to pay for it and provide the monies to you to do it, that's one avenue to do it.
Well, I'll do it directly.
No, but I mean, what's
I think the potential downside of that is we end up with a half-completed plan.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to second Jim's motion, then we can go to discussion. So.
Well, what it does is it gets the ball rolling, and so I mean, you do a lot of other planning in phases. That would be, you basically do an initial phase. It gives you, they're not going to do task number 6 and 7 before they do task 1, 2, and 3. And it's going to take them a little bit of time to do 1, 2, 3. So you have plenty of time to rally the horses and figure out how you're going to pay for it without robbing Peter to pay Paul.
You talking to yourself?
Yeah, I was just saying, we have 3 months for them to go through 30,000. I do know that there's some urgency to getting this done, and I'd like to see this resolution passed as is, so we can just get going with it.
I have one other thought. There's a lot of sequence of events here that we're trying to predict what's going to happen. But assuming that the next item on the agenda is a contract with HSP to dispose of our surplus property out there, they've indicated they're willing to reimburse the county for this plan. In order for us to transfer that property, that's defined by the environmental rules as a project which requires compliance with an airport land use plan. And Bob can stop me here when I go off track. Or that we're making substantial compliance towards getting a plan.
Right.
I'm not.
Having a contract is substantial compliance.
And I guess the fine point of that is that the Airport Land Use Commission is going to have to decide is having a contract to do a portion of a plan, is that substantial progress or not? I'm not prepared to make that statement.
I would think.
Putting the 30,000 down would definitely be a substantial move ahead, in my opinion.
So what kind of time frame are we going to address this, the rest of it? If we go with this motion,
I could say it's ongoing. We could be addressing it next week, the following week. You
Right.
don't have to wait 3 months. To
No, I don't
address
want to
it.
do that.
I would expect them to come back in the next few weeks and give us the rest of the pieces that we put onto it. But at least this gets it going.
This gets it going.
This will get it going, and in the next 30 days, we can come up with the other 18,000. That'll give you time to talk to the developer that Mr. Hammond said will pay the whole 48,000.
See, I just want to avoid the situation, Mr. Chairman, that when Mr. Anderson comes to the board, which he will at budget time or some other time, saying I need some help in the building department because we're understaffed and overwhelmed with all these new permits and stuff, and the funding for that extra position and stuff is the money that you would otherwise have spent on the airport.
Okay, we have a motion and second on the floor.
Another discussion, I mean, Hal Smith, he said today okay with the airport, but also, Mr. Hayes, when he was giving his presentation.
Yeah, he said he'd pay for it. Yeah. And Larry's out there, and he just said they'd pay for the whole
Figure
stuff.
out the mechanism to get their money.
That mechanism is simple. We would have a line item or we would accept revenue into the county general fund and increase the appropriation line. I don't see why we couldn't do that today if that's.
Yeah, that's the motion.
So we would increase the.
I tell you what, let's pass this motion and then we can take up that as a substitute. And that wasn't on the agenda for discussion. And what I was envisioning with this motion is it allows Mr. Egan to come back. It could be next meeting or it could be sometime in the next 30 days or within the next 3 months with those pieces done in a straightforward, legitimate. It doesn't have to be done today, but it would be, hopefully, it could be done soon. And then at the same time that they do that, I would hopefully add that there be some, on page 13, in terms of, these numbers here are just a little bit loosey-goosey for me, but that, I'm not sure, I'm sure there's $30,000 worth of work there, I'm just not sure if there's $48,000 worth of work.
We got a mark.
As the board wishes, it's meat and hunt though, it's a hunt meat, so just want to make sure the record is correct.
All right.
So that'll get, we can get the study, the contract rolling.
The contract was needed.
Yes.
We can attempt to negotiate a contract with them to do part of the plan.
This is the scope of work they proposed and the time, and the amount of money, so
So what happens if they turn it down?
Amen.
If we do, we have to deal with it at the time, hopefully they won't.
So,
It'd be back at us next meeting, but I think that if they're the kind of reputable firm they are, and they appear to be based on your Googling, I think they understand the challenges that we have to work out the money. I tell you, a bird in the hand for two in the bush.
Okay, do you have any more questions, Mr. Spencer?
Since Supervisor Hammond has demonstrated a conflict of interest with his secret meetings, I ask that the board not allow Mr. Hammond to vote on anything having or connected to HSP. I'm asking Mr. Hammond to recuse himself. If you have any decency left, to recuse yourself because you have these secret meetings, and this affects HSP, and there's got to be some decency left in you to recuse yourself.
The same secret meetings that you learned about, and just saying so from the floor?
Yeah, he admitted
That's
it.
pretty secret.
Sure.
Okay,
there were no secret meetings.
that's enough. We're going to involve Madam Clerk at the poll board.
Supervisor Chapman. Supervisor Alba.
This is just 30,000, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Supervisor Hempel.
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond.
Aye.
Supervisor Byer.
Aye. Motion passes.
Okay.
So let's go to H, and my apologies to Forest Service, you guys just be patient.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for taking items.
We're taking H5 now.
So we got two items in front of you today. One is a resolution approving the sale of surplus property that we've discussed many times in this board room around the Amity Airfield. The second is a purchase and sale agreement between Penny Lassen and HSP Resources Limited Liability Company. Mr. Smith is in the audience and may have comments. What I would like to suggest today that, and hopefully the board's had a chance to review the contract. You'll notice that it does not include an Exhibit A or B, which would be the legal description of the property that is sold. The reason for that is we are in the process of doing a field survey of the easement that we talked about to one of the portions of these parcels that we are retaining, and I didn't want to put a legal description in the packet that could be distributed and mistaken later. I just thought the fewer legal descriptions out there until it's in final form are better. I would suggest that the board consider the contract, perhaps approve the form of the contract, and ask staff to bring back the legal description in the final contract at a future meeting to finally approve that. This contract may allow, or approval of this may allow us to go ahead and open escrow with Chicago title and begin compiling all the necessary documents that will be required to close the transaction.
Well, confused. Which one are we doing? Which is the resolution? Or
They're both the same item number. We can perhaps take the resolution first.
Oh, it doesn't matter. I was just curious which one. So this isn't going to be the final sale agreement?
This will be the form of the sale agreement attached to it. Well, actually, let me caveat that because there's been a development since we posted this. It will have the legal description attached to it, which will be finalized. And I would also like to incorporate language in there that explains the reimbursement to the county for the airport land use accountability plan, if we can negotiate that language. And I think what that language would say, perhaps up to $48,000, but only actual expenditures that we expend in getting that plan, because hopefully, as suggested earlier, it will be less than $48,000.
My question is, will we be prudent to wait on this until we make sure you get your other deal from Eaton Hunt to make sure we're going to have this paid for, taken care of?
In a perfect world, yes, I'd say it'd be best to have all of our I's dotted and T's crossed. I do recognize, however, though, that from speaking with the purchasers, that they've got some urgency to obtaining some sort of contract or some sort of relationship with the county so they can move forward with their plans. And I think those are the things we need to weigh today. Do we wait until everything's perfectly dotted and crossed, or do we perhaps, and what I'm suggesting is maybe the board, not necessarily in the form of a vote, but give a direction to myself and council, this contract is what you want to do, and bring it back with the attachments in the language with the airport land use plan at the next meeting, which I think we'd be perfectly prepared to have it all on the next meeting of the Board of Supervisors together. So those are the things I think you need to weigh. As an administrator, I guess I prefer we do it all on 14th, but I recognize that the purchasers are in a hurry and don't want to stand in their way of getting on with their project.
Mr. Smith, do you have any comments you want to make?
No, I'm in agreement with Richard. We're more than willing to pay for the airport study, and we'll sign the addendum to the contract. I've read the contract. We're happy with it. We'd like to move forward.
Okay.
And this, so if we pass this today, they can enter into that.
You know, Mr. Smith's the realtor. I think you can open an escrow with just about anything.
We can open it, and I've reviewed the APN numbers with Richard, and we're all in agreement.
So with the opening of escrow, you can pursue whoever, whatever.
Yeah,
entities.
once we open escrow, we can move forward then, and that's really what we're trying to do.
Perhaps, and I'm going to defer to Bob a little bit here too, if the motion were to approve the contract subject to approval of language referencing the airport land use plan and final approval by this board of the legal description, perhaps that would suffice, and I'll defer to Bob. How do you like that?
Not much.
There you go.
Bob,
Yes,
sound good to you?
I don't like doing it piecemeal. As a lawyer, favor, before you enter into an agreement, that you know what it is you're entering into, what attachments exist, what parcels it relates to, and the like. I
We know
appreciate
that, don't we?
Well, we've been talking about it, but until it's part of the agreement, as a lawyer, I have some concern about that.
I agree. Just go back and walk through this pretty hard before.
So,
How long would that take to put the attachment on this?
The hope was to have been able to include that this morning. That's why you didn't see A and B attached when it was initially posted. In fairness to all, I think there's extra attention being dedicated to a review of the descriptions, as there should be. We're talking about 3,500 and something acres, and the warranty I made on, or the disclaimer I made on the state of Jefferson, I hadn't reviewed. I'm not a surveyor, you know. Zero is the contractor.
Sorry, Richard. So if we get all the comprehensive APN descriptions and stuff down, could we possibly hold a special meeting to push this through? Soon?
I think that's a great suggestion. I would prefer to have a special meeting than
Okay.
to do it piecemeal.
When would you like that special meeting?
Today is the 24th. I would prefer the 7th. Be a Tuesday. It's the first Tuesday that we wouldn't normally have.
First Tuesday in April is
No way you go
Sure.
31st?
just over a week.
What would that be? The 31st now?
Next Tuesday.
That would only, the limiting factor here is we've got surveyors going out late this week and early next week to do the field survey of the easement. I don't think it will be done by within a week.
Larry, you reviewed these APN numbers and everything?
Well, I think what Richard's talking about is some of the portions of the
Yeah.
APNs and the easement.
Uh-huh.
And, we want it correct.
Yeah, you would be more comfortable to do it right too.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Would the 7th cause
No,
a problem with?
no, I can live with that.
Okay, let's table this, re-agenda it.
We'll schedule a
Special meeting on the
I
7th.
think you can look forward to an amended proposed contract, amendments to include provisions that relate to perhaps reimbursement for some costs associated with the ALUC plan, and so there'll be some changes.
On that meeting of the 7th, if we have a special meeting, is it possible that after talking to this Reed company, that whatever we were going to do with that could be put on that same agenda, so we
Get
have
it all
all,
done.
it's
Yes.
all in front of us, so we're not piecemealing that?
I'll speak for Maureen on that. Yes.
Let's do that.
Got that, Maureen?
Because that was the intent of the previous motion, so it was to try to bring it back to that part of it.
Okay, staff has direction, I think that's all we need. Good, Mr. Burton?
Yeah, I think it's prudent what you're doing.
Okay.
Waiting until you have the final description before you authorize
So
execution.
we don't need to take any action, we just direct staff.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that's what we did. That concludes H5 for today, so I think we'll go to Forest Service. We're going behind you, 11 o'clock. Sorry. 28 now. Dave.
Good morning.
John, sir.
Yeah, we've got a visual aid here. Right there in that. Good to know.
Look at that.
Who took our magnets?
There, a bunch of- What's that?
All right. A couple topics to do a little update on today. First is blowdown as a result of a storm event in early February. And the second is just to update you on our fuel wood program. With me today is Scott Staworski. He's our forest silviculturist, and he oversees and manages our vegetation program for the forest. So, first of all, of course, as folks are aware, we had a significant storm event in early February. And there were impacts to the Lassen National Forest, everything from a tree fall on barracks at Hatfield Work Center to large timber that's come down across the forest, across roads, and some of that it's got significant value to it. So we put folks out right away to kind of check and see where we were. There's a lot of areas that are inaccessible because we have those that large timber across the roads. We did a flight in late February, and you see the results of the flight there, where we were able to map large areas of blowdown. It's shown in red, so most of it is on our Eagle Lake and Almanor Ranger districts, or Eagle Lake and Hat Creek Ranger districts, I should say. So essentially what we've got is a plan to address this with respect to priorities and urgency. So what we plan to do is first look around our administrative sites or recreation areas and highways 88 and 44 to remove that timber, capture the value, and provide for public and worker safety. So we've got a variety of tools to do that. Over in the Hat Creek Valley there, we already had a timber sale we were working on around the campgrounds there. So we're able to essentially just to use that as a tool to remove that timber. And we'll plan on doing that. We're looking at our existing timber sales. So if blowdown occurs within an existing timber sale that's still under contract, we can use that as a way to remove timber there. Along highways 88 and 44, we'll do a categorical exclusion under the National Environmental Policy Act to do sales along there. So so those are the kind of the easier targets. And then, of course, interior, as we work our way through the roads that are currently blocked, we'll have larger tracts of timber that will probably warrant environmental assessment to do some harvest there and pull those trees out that are on the ground. So to capture this, we've got a lot going on the Lassen. We're working on fire salvage for the Bald and Eiler fires. So Scott's been coordinating efforts to bring some additional resources to the forest. We've borrowed some folks from the Plymouth National Forest. We've acquired 3 additional marking crews through what we call our enterprise unit, which are kind of a freelance group within the Forest Service that can move where they're needed, and so we've brought them under agreement to do additional work for us. We have some temporary or seasonal employees we were able to bring on earlier rather than their normal tour to increase that workforce as well. And then, we look at our existing program of work to see what we're up against and what we may have to give up or delay as a consequence. Right now, with those additional resources, we're still on track to do the salvage sale of the Bald and Eiler fires, along with these other sales I mentioned. And we've got a bit of time to work with for an environmental assessment for those large expanses of timber that are on the ground. Those aren't subject to deterioration as quickly as, say, the fire salvage trees. And essentially, that's where we are with this. So we're certainly brought Scott along to help me with any particular questions or areas of concern from the board.
I just have one question. I've listened to this several times around the community, and obviously I think whatever timber values in terms of the commercial value, what we can generate out of that has got to be an important factor. But a lot of the wood cutters in the area are also looking at the fact that you've got a lot of wood laying out there that would be a lot handier for wood cutting. So could you address what you envision for the wood cutting for this coming season and how that can relate to the little guys, the non-commercial guys?
Yeah, and Scott's gonna take that on. That was kind of the second part, and so we can skip. We can, if you want to hold that for just a moment. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, on the economic side of things, I mean, what is really the blow-down value of the timber and the ball fire, the Eiler fire, what is your perceived or projected income from those? And at the same time, you go back to reforest the ball and Eiler fire, what's going to be your cost on those ballpark?
Scott might be able to help me out, so let him step forward.
Sure. Concerning the timber value, we're still working on that. We're still trying to get in there. So, right now we're kind of prioritizing the highways, campgrounds, public safety. One thing I can tell you as far as value, excuse me, a lot of the stuff that blew down was old growth pine, and you probably noticed that driving down the highway. That's really high value timber, stuff that we don't often sell. Usually we have to protect things above 30 inches in diameter. This act of God put it all on the ground. So there's going to be significant value in that timber. We don't have actual volumes yet. We have rough estimates for individual areas, but we haven't been able to add it all up because we're still trying to get in. So we're really focused on the highway right now, and we're starting to open roads, but we'll get a handle on that pretty soon. But we do intend to sell as much of that as we possibly can, what isn't cut up by the wood cutters. So as far as reforestation cost, it's hard to say also. You know, we just start.
Income down to the fires, to the two fires. You have your income from those two fires, an estimate on those, and as well as the cost of the rehabilitation.
An estimate of the timber value on the two fires. We're getting there. We're still working out. We're trying to figure out the thing that we're trying to deal with the dead burn timber is the value, or it's deteriorating very fast. So by the time we get through the environmental planning process, I mean the wood boards are working it right now. So it really depends on timing. I can say back when we did the Chips fire and the Reading fire in 2012, by the time we got the planning done, we started awarding timber sales almost a year after the fire. And soon after we awarded the timber sales, we had to raise the minimum diameter because everything basically less than 20 inches was no longer merchantable. So it's kind of a moving target. It all depends on when we get there. And plus, it's competitive bidding. We hope we generate a lot of money, but at this time, I can't really tell you.
When you get that done, I'd be very nice to have a report back from you guys on what the value of it, what you got out of it, and what the potential value would have been if you'd have been right in or right after the fire was going to happen, wait a year on that. And the value that was lost.
Sure. Did I answer your question?
It did. I'd like to hear it come back.
Yeah, once we make that sale, we can do an update here to this meeting once the sales are awarded.
Thank you.
All right.
Tim, do you have a question?
I'd like to address the board on this issue, and I appreciate your support for the letter we talked about earlier. I first met Dave Hayes on the first public meeting of the Iowa Fire, and I think he'd been here about a week at that time.
Oh, a month or so, yeah.
A month, was it? Whatever. And he took over a forest with a can-do attitude, which is one of the few in the state of California out of the 18 forests here. The Lassen forest is a can-do attitude. The Forest Service had cut their budget significantly. They cut their manpower. They really worked well together and hard to put this together to get this work done. They should be compensated for it. As we talk today, if I'm not mistaken, there's a hearing going on with the Department of Agriculture and the Chief of the Forest Service with Congressman LaMalfa, Congressman McClintock right now, and we are addressing this blowdown issue significantly. And we're being very critical of the Forest Service not getting more assistance to the Lassen Forest earlier. And hopefully we'll have some good out of this to help Mr. Hayes, who's done a good job. But the letters that you've written of recommendation will be used, they're being helped. There's other issues, the same thing. But we want to keep this going. They have literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of potential revenue out there, as you brought up. But we need to get it out. The mills desperately need that timber. They don't need just fire timber. They need good, clean timber, as we all know. And we know the mills are few and far between anymore on that. So I think we should commend the Lassen Forest for being a can-do out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Lassen Forest.
All right, so second topic is fuel, and then Scott's going to go over the details of that. But just to highlight, the fuel book program on the Lassen is the biggest in our region. So Region 5, of course, is 18 national forests, largely in California, and we have the largest one of any of those 18. So it's a program that's important to the community, and for a number of different ways. And Scott's going to highlight kind of how we're managing that and what the future looks like there.
Okay, so here's a number I can give you as far as number one in the region for selling fuel with. Our 5-year average is about 15,000 cords a year. And we sell that through two separate programs. We have our personal use program, or your average person wants to go out and cut their own wood. They can buy up to 10 cords a year, and 2 cords at a time on a permit. The other part of our fuel program is the commercial side, commercial use. And that is for people who these are people who are making a living, or partial living, or supplementing their income, selling firewood. They can buy unlimited numbers of cords throughout a year. So the way the Lassen program has worked, it's been kind of, you buy a permit, you can cut dead down, whether it's commercial use or it's personal